To the August 19, 2026 meeting of the Freeport Project Review Board. We have everybody here, so we don't need to read motions into the minutes tonight, right?
I think the motion, you can leave out the...
Leave the conditions out. Kyle, can you give us an information exchange?
Excuse me?
Yeah, so not much to say. This month, Planning Board took a month off because we were working on kind of finishing up some draft design review language and getting some additional images in there. So they did not meet, but we'll meet coming up in September. And then we had a staff review board meeting yesterday for a shoreline stabilization project on Merganser Way. Just close to another one we had around there previously. But so that's been going smoothly, moving those shoreline projects to staff review board. We haven't had any problems, and so I think that's been going well. But that's it. Not much staff approval this month.
Any questions for Kyle? Yep. Next order of business is a review and approval of the minutes from our July 15 meeting. Has everyone had a chance to look at them? Any questions or comments? Is there a motion to accept them as presented?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor? Thank you, Sharon. First item on the agenda is Brewer Woods Fox Ridge subdivision. Kyle, can you give us some background?
Yeah, let me pull up the plan real quick just for reference. So at this point, this is an 8-lot open space subdivision proposed off Beach Hill Road in our rural residential 1 zoning district. When they came for their conceptual meeting in April, we talked about things like their net residential acreage calculation and determining the density, allowing the 8 units on the land that they're talking about, the open space requirement of 11-ish acres. So you can see in the zoomed in plan, Beach Hill is on the right side here. A new private road would enter the site. In the preliminary application that we're looking at this time, they've submitted some additional road details, cross sections, and details indicating that it looks like it'll meet the subdivision ordinance requirements for a private road, 9-foot travel ways, 2-foot shoulders, paved. They're actually proposing a sidewalk on one side with curbing to, I think, aid in drainage to stormwater feature on one of the end lots there. It's roughly a 90-acre parcel in total, but they're only looking to develop about 20 acres initially. So there'd be a note on the plan that, stated should the developer or anyone wish to expand in the future, they would have to go back through the subdivision process and start this all over again. They provided some additional information this time around stormwater management. They added a report with some of their engineering calculations, which we had sent to our peer review engineer, who sent back some comment. Basically, there's no urgency necessarily to have that sorted out at this meeting. The full stormwater management calculations aren't even required until the final submission anyway. So as long as those are addressed by the final submission, there'd be no issues there. Some other details have been added in their application this time. I think there's draft homeowners association documents, things like that were included as well. So at this point, staff doesn't have too many comments other than procedurally, preliminary subdivision is kind of the second step in a 3-step process for major subdivisions. This is the public hearing we'll have this night. Even though they'll come back for a final application submission, I know the board always takes public comment. The official public hearing will be tonight. And although there's no actual approval, what I outlined in the staff report is that the ordinance requires the board to essentially approve the preliminary plan as a way of signaling that the applicant is making a good effort working towards a final application submission. It's not an approval of the project itself. It doesn't give anyone the right to go out and start working or anything like that, but it is a step that the ordinance requires ahead of the final application submission. Other than that, I'm happy to answer any questions that come up.
Does the board have any questions for Kyle? You said Jason Vafiatis is not here tonight?
Yeah, but I think the applicant has another representative to stand in.
Want to come up? Thank you. Welcome. While you're coming up, I'll just explain to members of the audience who are here for this agenda item. As Kyle said, this is up for preliminary approval tonight. We will vote that up or down, but before we do that, we'll also open up for a public hearing after we have our comments for the applicant.
Thank you. My name is Tony Panciocco, and as you mentioned, Jason is out of town and asked me to fill in. I'm currently employed with Teradyne Consultants out of Pineland, but I'm helping Jason out with this because he's out of town. I think Kyle gave a very good description of what's going on. So I guess the big thing for me would be let's get, we get right to comments, our public comments. I was involved with this kind of during the sketch plan phase of it. I haven't been that much involved at all since then. So I'll answer whatever I can, and if I can't answer it, we'll get it back to Jason and get it addressed before any final submission.
Thank you very much. Any questions for the applicant?
I noticed on the title page of the drawings that there's a C-103 overall development plan listed, but I didn't see that in the electronic package. I don't know if that's missing or not intended to be there in the first place, or if I didn't find it.
No, you're right. It's because it's not in this set either. Overall development plan. My guess is it's probably missing, but we'll follow up with Jason on that one.
Okay.
'Cause in the copy that I have, it's not in there either. So
Okay. Do you know what would be on that plan?
my guess it's probably an overall plan that shows the grading and the roadway, the stormwater pond location, that type of thing.
Okay.
Yeah, I wonder if
All development
it's-
areas, as
I won-
opposed to a subdivision plat.
Yeah, I wonder if it's part of the envisioned final plan set once some more of the details that are required under the final plan approval
Yeah.
would get added in, but they're just not ready at this stage.
Could be, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Yeah, I've got a question. When we met in July, some of the abutters had concern on the impact on their water supply when the wells are dug. So I see you've had somebody come in and prove that there's water supply for the lots you're putting in. Can you provide assurance to the abutters that there's no impact on their water supply? Or will you be able to?
I anticipate you probably will not be able to do that because, there wasn't a groundwater study that was done as part of this. Typically when you build a single-family house, you drill your well, and depending on, how the groundwater moves through the ground, it's going to depend on what your yield is, whether you have 2 gallons a minute, 20 gallons a minute, et cetera. The only thing you can say is your typical house doesn't use that much water. I mean, if you're sizing it for septic or for sewage, you're figuring 90 gallons per day per bedroom, which
We have received a
you
letter.
typically don't use that much, but that's the way, septic is sized.
I do think, in the record, I think we have a letter from a well driller indicating that there's typically adequate water in this area. And one thing, I'm sure Jason knows this, we have a provision in the town ordinance that a subdivision, once approved, has to, when you sell lots, you have to have a 1-year guarantee of finding adequate water volume and quality, and we're going to be adding that. It's because it's already in the ordinance, we're going to be putting that in a condition for all subdivision approvals from now on.
Makes sense.
Fred, do you remember, I remember that being a comment on the Desert Road subdivision. I don't necessarily remember it being a comment on this one from abutters, but I don't. It could have been, and I could just be mixing them up. But,
I thought, I
okay.
could have mixed it up too, but
Okay.
I thought it was.
Okay.
That was a comment
Yeah.
at the sidewalk.
Yeah. Okay. I can.
It sounds like we've got it covered with a ordinance.
Yeah, so I talked about that for it previously. I mean, the ordinance has some language around the board being able to require stricter hydrogeologic studies if, like for instance, if community septic and well systems are utilized versus individual, or if projects are at a certain density level, or if there's a kind of known or presumed impact or existing condition or, reason to trigger it. So what the ordinance requires on just a general level is some sort of memo or report from a licensed well driller or a hydrogeologist familiar with the area, just kind of going off of their experience in the area and making a statement that there should be adequate supply, and then the applicant would show on the plan the proposed location of wells, just to determine that setbacks from other things are met. And then, so if in that initial report there was some reason to believe that there was an actual, a big concern or issue, the board could step in and require a more advanced study at that point.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? We'll have a chance to discuss this again after the public hearing. Is there a motion to open the public hearing?
So moved.
Second? All in favor of opening the public hearing? So what we'll do, if anyone here would like to make any comments, we'd ask that you come up to the lectern, introduce yourselves. We have the same policy as the town council of asking that people limit their comments to 3 minutes. And all comments have to go through the mic, and if it is a question for the applicant, we'll ask that you come back up as well. We also will check to see if we have anybody on Zoom who wishes to make a comment. But is there anyone in the audience who'd like to speak? Anyone on Zoom?
Let me check. I don't see any hands up.
Okay. As Kyle said, this is the one public hearing which is formally required by the ordinance. We always do it informally as well, so there'll be another chance at the final meeting. Is there a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
Second? All in favor? Thank you. Any further questions for the applicant? It seems to me like with the technical questions that were raised have been adequately addressed by our reviewing engineer. Is there a motion?
I'll do it.
Thank you.
Be it ordered that the Freeport Project Review Board approve the preliminary subdivision plans submitted by Brewer Woods LLC for the proposed Fox Ridge subdivision located at tax map 21, lot 64, for an 8-lot residential open space subdivision, preliminary plan set dated 7/16/2026, finding that based upon the materials submitted by the applicant and the information contained in the record, the layout of the development is consistent with the information presented in the conceptual submission, that the applicant has submitted the required information per the Freeport subdivision ordinance, and the applicant is working towards the development of the final plans. The following conditions of approval and/or items shall be incorporated into the final submission. 1, the approval of the preliminary plan shall not constitute approval of the final plan or intent to approve the final plan. 2, prior to the final plan approval, the applicant addressed the comments submitted by the town's peer review engineer in the memo dated August 5, 2026. 3, the final submission shall incorporate the submission requirements of the Freeport subdivision ordinance, including but not limited to Article 8, Appendix C, and Appendix H of the Freeport subdivision ordinance.
Thank you, Lynn. Is there a second?
Second?
Any discussion? All in favor of the motion as presented? Unanimous, thank you. Second agenda item is NBC Real Estate Holdings, Maine Beer Company. Welcome, Chris and Steve. Can you give us a run?
Yeah. So just a quick overview of this one, since we did see this one at a conceptual submission before, and I know the applicant has some people here who can explain the project in more detail. Maine Beer Company has submitted expansion plans for approximately, I think, 12,000 square foot building expansion. It'll add some additional parking to the site as well. The building expansion is primarily located in an existing parking area. The new parking that's extended will go into some vegetated wetland areas. Since the conceptual meeting, just from a policy side with our own ordinance and rules, the planning board and town council did work on changes to our commercial 1 and commercial 3 districts, and to the district standards themselves, as well as our section 527 standards in the zoning ordinance, which have some building design and access guidelines. So a couple of the points that were brought up at the concept meeting are really no longer relevant. One, the maximum building height in this district was raised to 45 feet across the board, so there's no question now that what the applicant proposing would meet that standard, whereas before it was sort of up to the board whether something like that could be feasible. And the use of metal siding is now allowed. In those 527 standards, it still requires that there's no blank walls or facades, that you're putting in architectural features to break up the facades and add to the design, but there's no strict prohibition of metal siding at all. Other than that, the applicant's using existing stormwater features. I think they've envisioned this project for a while and have done previous work that's gone to the board with that in mind. So the comments from our peer review engineer were pretty limited. It's happening pretty centrally located on the lot, so there aren't a lot of concerns with setbacks or anything like that. It does trigger, for the first time, DEP SLOTA approval. So I guess we can just get an update from the applicant on where that is. But other than that, staff didn't have any real big concerns with this one.
SLOTA being for the site location
Site
and
location.
DEP, so
Yeah.
any approval that comes out of town hall has to be subject to that.
Yeah, so I don't know, Chris, real quickly, are you guys still waiting on that, or is it?
Yes, we are.
Yeah, so, we put a condition in there that's just provided ahead of any building permits being issued. In the event that DEP came back and required a project to change substantially in some way after the board had already given a conditioned approval, then the project would just have to come back to the board with whatever changes. Hopefully, if the board approves it here, the DEP approval goes smoothly and that isn't necessary, but that would just be the process in kind of the worst case scenario. Yeah, turn it over to the applicant.
Welcome back, Steve.
Thank you. Good evening. I'm Steve Mills. I'm the CEO of Maine Beer Company, and I'm representing Maine Beer Company this evening. I've got a few heavy hitters with me, Chris from Sebago Technics, Tim from Zachow Construction, and Ryan Sinatori from Ryan Sinatori Architecture. They're a lot smarter than I am and know more about the use, so whatever specific questions you have, I might be deferring to them.
I'll give a quick overview. My name is Chris Taylor, professional engineer with Sebago Technics, representing the applicant Maine Beer Company. We presented this project to you guys back in March at the meeting. Just quick rundown of the site, located off Route 1, Commercial 1 zoning district. There's a portion of the site that's in a rural district, but none of the developments in that rural district, or in the residential district, excuse me. Everything's kind of on the commercial C1 zone. 8.3 acre parcel owned by the applicant. The current development on the site includes the existing brewing facility, tasting room, restaurant, parking lot, including the recently approved parking expansion that was constructed, approved last year, kind of constructed over the wintertime. This plan is a 12,000 square foot building expansion just for the brewing operations, no change proposed for the tasting room, restaurant. This, once completed, the site would have 145 vehicle parking spaces. That's 32 more spaces than the site previously had prior to that parking expansion that was approved last year. So we're talking a net of 32 more. In terms of anticipated use, we think from an employee perspective, it's pretty low. And so most of those would be available for, additional tasting room, people visiting the tasting room in the brewery. The two entrances on Route 1 and Pine Street are to remain, so those two driveways are going to stay where they are. We're proposing a gate off the end of the building expansion here to prevent any cut-through traffic from Route 1 onto Pine Street, but still providing emergency vehicle access around the building and the expansion. Additional traffic generation from this development is minor, based on the ITE land use code, which for this type of facility is a manufacturing facility. That generates an additional 10 peak hour trips. But based on the anticipated use from this facility, we anticipate that would actually be, it would be less than that. As the additional trips are limited to additional employees and deliveries. From a stormwater perspective, the site has 2 existing underdrain soil filters and a roof drip edge filter. These will be maintained to treat the additional impervious runoff from the site, or the runoff from the additional impervious area. The underdrain soil filter that was constructed as part of the parking lot expansion was intentionally oversized to accommodate this planned development and building expansion. For utility services, building will be serviced by public water, sewer, gas, and electric, all from mains and coming from Pine Street. For water, the existing water services are to remain, so there's really no exterior water work that's being done as part of this project. On the sewer side, the expansion will have a new sewer service coming out of it. There'll be 4 5,000-gallon settling tanks intended to capture the solids from the industrial flow. So from the brewing operations, they'll flow through the 4 5,000-gallon settling tanks, and that's intended to capture, remove some of the solids from that, and then it'll be piped back into the existing connection on Pine Street. For gas, the building expansion will have a new gas service. The existing main in Pine Street is going to be extended a few hundred feet down to basically the site driveway, and then a new service will be run to the building expansion. And then electrical, the existing electrical service and transformer that's located off Pine Street will be maintained and is adequate to service the building expansion. Kyle had mentioned that we have a number of permits. This project triggers a number of permits. We filed those permits with the state agencies, or state and federal agencies. The permits are a main DEP site location of development or site law permit, as well as a Natural Resources Protection Act permit, and a Army Corps of Engineers pre-construction notification. The NRPA permit and the Army Corps permit are due to proposed wetland fill, which is located right here. This was along the edge of the previous limit of development, And with the building expansion, it's triggering the need to fill 2,800 square feet of wetland impact. And with there is some previous wetland impact associated with the existing building that was kind of expanded back in 2011. So we added those two together, triggers a DEP NRPA permit with that. All those have been applied for, they're in the review process. We've been in contact with Army Corps and DEP on those, and they're just kind of moving along in the intended review timeline. I've got this plan to show, as well as some additional plans, 3D renderings that were included in the application. This is a rendering from Route 1 that shows the existing facility. The next slide here is going to show the same, but with the building expanded. Next two slides are the same, but from a slightly different angle. So this is the view from the side, existing facility, and then the building expanded here. We've got other views that we can show you as well if you have any questions, but that's kind of a rundown of the application.
Chris, I know these are already in place, but can you give us a 90-second lesson on how under-drain soil filters work for
Yes.
stormwater management?
Yep. So an under-drain soil filter is a depression. It looks like a detention basin, a classic detention basin that you funnel stormwater to it. It's got it's kind of depressed in the ground, has a berm on one side, so it holds the water, acts like a bathtub. The difference is that an under-drain soil filter has specific sand media that allows plants to grow on the bottom of it, and that stormwater runoff to filter down through the sand media. And it's about 2.5 feet thick of specific soil that gets installed in it. That stormwater runoff filters down through it, gets collected in perforated under drain pipes at the bottom of that 2.5 foot thick media. And then that is slowly released during very large storm events. Those under drains and the soil media won't be able to infiltrate or kind of percolate all that rainwater down through it. So then there's a outlet control structure that has openings in it that are sized to kind of control the amount of flow that's being discharged through that basin, like a typical detention basin would, kind of the old school. So it's kind of a 2-in-1 of you've got the storage volume to detain and reduce the runoff rates coming off from the development, while also having this soil media at the bottom and the under drains to treat the runoff from the first 1 inch of runoff. That's kind of the requirement from DEP, and that's a standard that we go by.
Good job, thanks. Any other questions for the applicant? This is not a formal public hearing, but we always invite public comments. Anyone have any questions or comments from the audience? Nothing online? We're pretty acquainted with this project. Is there a motion?
Sure. Be it ordered that the Freeport Project Review Board approve the printed findings of fact and site plan review for MBC RE Holdings LLC for a 12,000 square foot expansion to the production space and redesigned traffic circulation at the existing main beer company facility at 525 US Route 1, which is tax map 23, lots 61A and 44B, in an application dated July 22nd, 2026, to be built substantially as proposed, finding that it meets the standards of the Freeport zoning ordinance with the following conditions of approval. 1, this approval incorporates by reference all supporting plans that amend the previously approved plans submitted by the applicant and their representatives at Project Review Board meetings and hearings on the subject application to the extent that they are not in conflict with other stated conditions. 2, prior to construction, the applicant obtained any applicable permits from the Freeport Codes Enforcement Department and Public Works Department. 3, prior to any site work and the issuance of any building permit, the applicant complete the following. A, establish a performance guarantee in the amount to cover the cost of all site work associated with the project in an amount to be reviewed by the town's peer review engineer in a form acceptable to the town attorney. Along with a performance guarantee, a non-refundable administrative fee at the rate established by the Freeport Town Council be paid. B, establish a site inspection escrow account in an amount to be determined for the inspection of site improvements by the town. C, enter into a stormwater maintenance agreement with the town of Freeport to be recorded in the Cumberland County Registry of Deeds with yearly stormwater reporting to the town of Freeport being required. D, the developer have a pre-construction meeting with the town planner. E, provide a response to the peer review engineer comments regarding stormwater management from the memo dated August 6, 2026, to be reviewed by the town's peer review engineer. F, provide evidence to the town of Maine DEP's approval of the SLOTA permit. And G, obtain any necessary Maine DEP and Army Corps of Engineers permitting for impacts to wetlands and provide evidence to the town that the permits have been received. Point 4, the approval of a site plan shall become void if construction of site improvements is not initiated within 2 years of the date of such approval unless such time limit is extended by the board that granted the original approval. And 5, any appeals from a final decision of the project review board shall be taken only directly to Superior Court.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion? All in favor of the motion as presented? Thank you. Good luck. Next agenda item is Maine State Golf Association for a site plan amendment for a project we're also familiar with, and this is for a 3,400 square foot clubhouse at the existing facility.
Hi, Ford.
Do you want me to give an?
Yeah, give us a review, please.
So, similar to the, let me see. Is that a button? Brad, do you know where the button is to reset the screen? Yeah, afterwards.
Are you presenting now, or?
Yeah, yeah. I don't need anything right now.
Okay, yeah, when you unplug this, it should
Okay.
switch back to that.
Okay. So similar to the other, the project we just saw, the board has seen the conceptual application submission for the site plan application. Maine State Golf Association is proposing a new clubhouse and parking area at the existing golf course on Old County Road. So the developed area, the project area that we're looking at is really right off of Old County Road. It's a much larger, I think 100-acre-ish parcel, but the area we're talking about is pretty limited to what you see on the bottom left corner there. Golf courses are considered commercial outdoor recreation. This is an existing course, obviously, but the use is generally allowed in this zone anyway. The current parking area, I would say, is non-conforming in any number of ways with the current ordinance. So what's being proposed is, I think probably not only works for the applicant, but also a good step in the direction in terms of bringing it into compliance with the ordinance and just general pedestrian and vehicle circulation there, where they've created more of a loop configuration than the kind of undesignated gravel area there now. The clubhouse is proposed to be roughly in the same location as the current one, although a little bigger. Again, I think I noted in the staff report, we don't have any specific design guidelines for buildings in our rural residential districts, but there's always this kind of general site plan review criteria that the board takes into consideration about blending a building into the environment and natural landscape and kind of general form of a site. Other than that, again, staff didn't have too many comments. Stormwater is going to be managed in and around the parking area. I think one comment that I had to the applicant after reviewing was in the photometric plan, there's a slight light spillage off of the parking area into the right-of-way over what would be allowed by the ordinance, which should be able to be fixed fairly easily. So I think we added a condition of approval that just be addressed before getting a building permit. Other than that, traffic to the site with what the applicant proposed doesn't seem to be to the point where it would be triggering any issues that staff is aware of. So if anyone has questions, happy to answer.
Pretty convenient for you, huh?
Put it back to back for a reason. It's nice.
Brian, can you give us an update?
My name's Brian Bickford. I'm the Executive Director of Maine State Golf Association. We're living phase one, if you will, the driving range. Last week we celebrated our millionth ball hit at the driving range, which has been widely attended by a number of people. Over around 500,000 golf balls have been hit by kids, and that's really been our mission since we started. We've been around since 1917 and represent 128 clubs from Fort Kent to Kittery. We're excited about this second phase, if you will, that is the clubhouse and the parking lot. And I chuckled when Kyle said about the existing parking lot, because you couldn't be more right. But we make do, and we're living the volume that's attending right now. And so, similar to Steve Mills, I turn it over to expertise greater than I when it comes to the application, and that is Chris, and I'm happy to answer any questions that anybody might have.
Thank you.
Thank you. Again, Chris Taylor, professional engineer with Sebago Technics, representing the applicant, Maine State Golf Association. We presented this to the board back in April. This is the plan you see in front of you is an aerial image of the current site with the proposed line work in black over top of it. Site is located off Old County Road in the rural residential district. The parcel is 111 acres, currently owned by the applicant. And as Kyle mentioned, there's currently an existing golf course, clubhouse, gravel parking lot, and the recently constructed hitting bays for the driving range. This proposed plan and application includes a new clubhouse, 3,400 square feet, a 45 space parking lot, improved access and pedestrian golfer circulation and walkways. The existing clubhouse will be demolished and a new clubhouse will be installed. The new clubhouse is in a similar location. You can see in the aerial, existing clubhouse location is approximately here, kind of right at the front entrance to the new clubhouse. The site access is to remain off of Old County Road, so still maintaining same point of connection to the public road network. For traffic, additional traffic generation is going to be very minor because we have it currently outside operating as a golf course and driving range. So based on the IT land use codes, we looked at tried to calculate additional trips that would be generated, estimated that as 2 a.m. peak hour trips and 3 p.m. peak hour trips, and that's due to kind of the enlarged clubhouse that would have 2 simulators, golf simulators in them. Those got, from a traffic perspective, they got counted the same as a driving range, basically, from a traffic engineering perspective. Stormwater for the site includes 2 under-drain soil filters and a roof drip edge filter around the perimeter of the new clubhouse. That'll be used to treat and detain stormwater runoff from the proposed impervious area. And from a calculation perspective, we utilized the redevelopment standard to meet DEP regulations for that. From a utility perspective, the site will be serviced by public water, sewer, and electric from utilities in Old County Road. For water, there's going to be a new water service installed to the new clubhouse. From a sewer perspective, we'll reutilize the existing sewer service, but new piping will be installed, kind of rip up the majority of the existing service and run it to the new building, but connect at the same location. For electrical, this will require some new utility poles to be installed in the landscape island of the parking lot, and that's to maintain the overhead service that goes to DOT services to 295. And then from those poles, there'll be underground service that goes to the new clubhouse building. This project did require, it does require a site law permit or Site Location of Development Act permit with the Maine DEP. That application has been filed. That was required as kind of a technicality due to the past landowner being L.L. Bean and it being deemed as common schema development. So once this land gets included in a site law permit, which it was, it can't really be removed, but the amount of development on the site doesn't, now that it's separate as its own owner, the amount of development on the site wouldn't normally trigger a site law permit. That's the update I have. Happy to answer any questions you guys have.
Could you just clarify where the 2 utility poles are relative to whatever's there now, too?
So right now, you can see on the aerial, the utility poles run down the paved portion. It's almost like it was a former road that crossed 295.
Okay.
And was abandoned over time. So they run along, there's 2 utility poles that run along the paved portion of the lot. This plan here is the black and white plan that shows the proposed layout. We have 1 utility pole here that's kind of in line, and then another one located here that has a slight bend to it, but there's utility poles here and here near the property line that service those DOT services. I believe it goes to one of those kind of message board signs that they change on 295. They use it for that. So,
Thank you.
And the timing, I think you mentioned this, you'd be starting this soon?
we are still waiting on the DEP approval. So basically, as soon as that comes back, Brian will know more, but I think they're ready to go once we get the DEP approval.
We're ready to go.
Any other questions?
Question regarding the vehicular circulation. The round area on the easterly side, is that meant to work as a drop-off? And if so, do you have to orient vehicles to do that properly?
It wasn't intended to be a drop-off. This was just kind of the best circulation we could get to get vehicles to the end and then back without having a dead end. There really wasn't enough space to have multiple bays of parking, nor was it really needed. So it was just a way to have prevent dead end parking lot. So
Follow-up question on that. Will there be school buses trying to traverse this and bring teams out?
I don't believe so, because currently there's a turnaround on Old County Road. There's a turnaround right here, kind of at the the left side of the page that can be used, because it's a dead-end road for a public, so there's a turnaround that's in the public right-of-way that can be used for emergency vehicles and things of that nature that are using Old County Road. Don't have to come onto this site.
You have no concerns about vehicular circulation, it sounds like.
No.
Jason, I think that flashing red light we have here is because they want you closer to the microphone
I have to sit up.
or speak out. Anybody else?
This is just for my own clarification. When I went through this, I didn't see a lot changing in terms of the conceptual proposal that we saw in April. Other than a few small things like the kind of technical capacity or financial and technical capacity letter is new. I think the SLOTA permit is new. Is there anything else that we should be looking at that's changed since April? Because I didn't catch a lot here.
No, it really hasn't changed much. We just added, it was really being able to get, well, one, we had submitted the SLOTA, and then getting all of the technical aspects wrapped up into a package so we weren't coming back to you guys multiple times. So worked with, but it really, the building didn't change at all, same building plans, really the same parking layout. It was making sure that we had ability to serve letters from water and sewer, just kind of making sure landscaping was all designed, stormwater is buttoned up, and we could, present the analysis, financial capacity, all that sort of stuff that goes into the site plan submission document.
Thank you.
Yeah, just for the board's sake, I would say Chris and Sebago and some other applicants, when they come for that conceptual meeting, many applicants will provide more detail than what is actually required under, our conceptual submission can be really, really light if people wanted to. It's really just a conversation of an idea that you could envision changing. A lot of times, like with this project, people are further along when they come. So, yeah, like Chris was saying, it's really just a matter of taking the kind of formalized idea and meeting all the technical standards, but there's not a lot of change on the plan itself.
Any other questions or comments? Does anyone from the public have a question for the applicant or a comment they want to share with us? Nobody on Zoom, right?
No.
Is there a motion? I'll make a motion. Be it ordered that the Freeport Project Review Board approve the printed finding of fact and state and site plan review for Maine State Golf Association for a new clubhouse and parking lot at the existing golf course considered commercial recreation outdoor at 2 Old County Road, extension, tax map 26, lot 38, in an application dated July 22, 2026, to be built substantially as proposed, finding that it meets the standards of the Freeport zoning ordinance with the following conditions of approval. This approval incorporates by reference all supporting plans that amend the previously approved plans submitted by the applicant and their representatives at the Freeport Project Review Board meetings and hearings on the subject application to the extent that they're not in conflict with other stated conditions. 2, prior to construction, the applicant shall obtain any required permits from Freeport Code Enforcement Department and Public Works Department. 3, prior to any site work or the issuance of any building permit, the applicant complete the following. A, establish performance guarantee in the amount of the cost of all site work associated with the project in an amount to be reviewed by the town's peer review engineer in a form acceptable to the town attorney, along with a performance guarantee and non-refundable administrative fee at the rate established by the Freeport Town Council be paid. B, establish a site inspection escrow account in the amount to be determined by the inspection of site improvements by the town. C, enter a stormwater maintenance agreement with the town of Freeport to be recorded in the Cumberland County Registry of Deeds, with yearly stormwater reporting to the town of Freeport being required. D, the developer have a pre-construction meeting with the town planner. E, provide a response to the peer review engineer comments regarding stormwater management from a memo dated August 5, 2026 to be reviewed by the town's peer review engineer. F, provide evidence to the town of Maine's DEP approval for the SLOTA permit amendment G, provide a revised photometric plan that shows the illuminance levels of property line at no more than 0.1 foot candles. 4, the approval of the site plan shall become void if construction of the site improvements not initiated within 2 years of the date of such approval unless such time limit is extended by the board that granted the original approval. And finally, 5, any appeals from the final decision of the project review board shall be taken directly to the Superior Court. Is there a second?
Second?
All in favor of the motion? Thank you.
Thank you. For just one quick comment, I think so. Another gentleman in the audience got it, but I actually got one of those fraudulent bills for $4,000 to pay the fee that you supposedly signed. But it was very convincing.
Wow, who signed it?
You did.
You did.
Is that true?
It's not really you, but it's.
Yeah, just a heads up.
Well, I want my money.
I'll meet you later. Yeah, no, just a heads up.
Is that true?
Yeah, it's
True, I can send it to you, but Kyle's probably seen them. The bills go out from the planning board.
Wow.
So we've been getting them on planning board and project review board. We're not the only town. It's kind of a scam going around.
Yeah.
They pull project information from agendas, throw it into a letter. It's probably AI generated, and it'll usually be signed by Sophie or Ford or Sam or one of the chairs or the town manager or something, asking someone to wire funds. So we have alerts up on the website and in my email, note at the bottom. But yeah, maybe it's worth an info exchange.
Is it
when
working?
project reps are.
Do you know of anybody?
Not here. I don't know that anyone that's actually done it. I think a couple of people have been close maybe, but they've been stopping in just to verify. And
It's very convincing, and I mention it because, it's timed with this meeting, so I thought, oh, maybe that's the next step, and so I didn't wire it. I was going to cut a check because I had talked to Kyle about a check, but just a heads up.
Was it my home address?
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
By the way, I never received that, so.
Yeah. The next agenda item is Miles Realty 3, Bob Miles, site plan review for a building of 7,200 square feet. Kyle, can you give us some background?
Jess is actually going to do this one.
Oh, Jess.
Hey there. So this is another returning project. We initially saw this application from Miles Realty back in February. All right? Okay. They're back here for seeking final approval for the construction of a two-story, 10,864 square foot construction services building off of US Route 1. Construction services is an allowable use with site plan review in the medium density B district where the project area is located. The applicant anticipates the project will create approximately 40,000 square feet of new developed area, of which will be 18,000 square feet of new impervious area and gravel service. As proposed, the project will meet the maximum impervious coverage allowance of 50% as established in the district. It will also meet both the 50-foot setback on all sides required in the district, as well as the MDB's additional setback requirement, which is specific to non-residential uses like construction services, which requires that the proposed building not be closer than 100 feet to the nearest residential structure. As it's proposed, the edge of the building is set back 60.47 feet from the southern property line, which is the property with the nearest residential structure, and that structure is over 100 feet from that property line on its own parcel, and to the north is another commercial use, so there's no additional residential structure. The allowed building height in the MDB is 35 feet, as seen in the applicant's August 18th response to staff comments, which was sent on to you yesterday. The height of the proposed building is anticipated to be 27.9 feet, based on the definition and how we measure height in the zoning ordinance. In addition to the bulk and space requirements, the MDB district has its own sort of set of additional standards. One of those includes a buffer requirement for uses other than single family and duplex development. It requires up to a minimum depth of 25 feet for landscaping and all setbacks. This property actually has a vegetated buffer in all of its setbacks that either meets or exceeds that standard. Are we all set, Kyle?
Yeah. Tom, did you plug in just now?
Yes, he did. Okay.
Okay, yeah.
The applicant is also proposing to revegetate the disturbed areas around the new development, and there was a landscaping plan included in the application packet. There is one other standard distinct to the MDB district that this project does trigger, and that is that non-residential buildings that are visible from US Route 1 can only have one overhead door that can be seen from the roadway. And the applicant is proposing an overhead door in the north facade of the building, which will be visible from the roadway, but just the one, so it does meet with that standard of the MDB. In their response to staff and engineering comments, the applicant confirmed there will be 5 employees working at the location at any given time. Between that fact and the use and the requirements for the use, both staff and the town's peer review engineer have identified that traffic generation from the proposed use will be minimal. It's anticipated to have little impact on the capacity of Route 1. Per the parking standards in the ordinance, construction services requires a parking space either for every 1.2 employees or every 1,000 square feet of building area, whichever is greater. The applicant is currently proposing 10 spaces to meet the standard based on the square footage of the building, as can be seen on the updated site plans, which were included with their August 18th response to comments. A stormwater report was also included as part of the application packet. The applicant anticipates that peak post-development stormwater runoff rates will be less than peak pre-development runoff rates. The town's engineer did provide some minor comments regarding stormwater management in their memo dated August 11th. The applicant submitted a response. It's currently under review. If further review of the stormwater results in any changes to that plan that are beyond the scope of what can be approved at the staff level, the applicant will return to the board for further approval. There's no signage proposed currently for this project. There is minimal site lighting proposed. It's exterior features, all of which are shielded, and the applicant anticipates no more than 0.1 foot candle at the property line, as per the standards of section 521 AD of the ordinance. And finally, utilities. The project site will be served by well and wastewater disposal system. The wastewater disposal was on the original site plan. The corrected site plan that was sent out following the applicant's response to comments does include a additional 100-foot buffer from the proposed wastewater, and a note, number 15, which says that the applicant will work with, sorry, I've lost my place, that the applicant will work to determine the appropriate location for the well with experts. The only other aspect is there is an overhead electrical service being proposed from an existing pole on Route 1. The ordinance does prefer underground electrical or all utilities wherever feasible. However, the applicant is proposing an overhead because of the desire not to disturb the vegetated buffer that currently surrounds the property. The ordinance does allow for overhead utilities so long as they have a harmonious relationship with neighboring properties in the site, and that is at the board's discretion.
Any questions for Jess? I have one, just on, this building is quite close to the height limit, and when you're in that situation, the grading around the building becomes important. We had an outstanding question about that. Did that get resolved?
It did, yep. So in the initial application, the applicant had suggested the building would be 34 feet from base to roof peak. We sent them the definition for height in the ordinance, which requires that the vertical distance of a building be measured from the average elevation of the finished grade within 20 feet, and that the measurement be from that elevation to a point which includes 30% of the height between the eaves and the ridge for pitched roofs like this one. So after recalculating that, the applicant came back in their response to comments yesterday with a finished building height of that 27.9 feet, and that takes into account the average grade around the building and that point at 30% between the eaves and the roof.
Good job, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, our definition of height's a little strange, but
It's hard to do.
as long as there's not a really steep drop-off that only going up 30% of the roof typically will bring it down so it's feasible.
And we do have the applicant with us as well this evening, so if the board has any additional questions, refer to his knowledge.
Welcome, Tom.
Hi, how are you?
Good.
Tom Associates, Site Design Associates. Jess kind of took all my presentation, but I'll go through it anyway because I got some drawings to share with you. So again, it's a proposed construction services building for Bob Miles and Son on Route 1, just north of where they're currently located. As everybody here probably knows, they're a local family-owned plumbing and HVAC company. It's a new two-story structure on 7,200. Well, I had to get my slideshow going here, because I did spend. So that's the site across from Zachow Construction, or however they pronounce it. That's the site location. This is a boundary survey that was prepared previously for the site. I'll just go quickly through some of these. This is the topographic survey that was prepared for the site. You can see on here, there's some wetlands mapped along the north side of the property. Those were mapped in 2018 by Mark Sensi. We asked him to go back out there this April just to verify that the boundaries hadn't changed. That's typically a DEP requirement anyway. If it's 5 years old, you've got to go back and look at it. So nothing had changed out there. There is the 75-foot DEP jurisdictional zone shown on that drawing. As Jess said, I think she said that this site's been the subject of 2 previous approvals. The most recent one was in February of 2022. And that's the site plan for the site that was approved. The building's gotten a little bigger and some things lay out a little differently. There's a porch on the building now, but that's pretty similar to what we are asking for approval for. This is the site plan. I really can't read anything up there, but it's, again, in the MDB zone, as Jess said, 7,200 square foot footprint, about 10,800 total square footage. The second story is mostly storage. There is an office and a bathroom up there. The access to the site is 24-foot access off Route 1. MDOT entrance permit has been received and was in your application package. The site distances exceed MDOT standards. Obviously, they at least meet them because they gave us a permit. As Jess said, there's a proposed wastewater disposal field shown on the drawing in this area. You can't see my pointer anyway, but it's on there. That was designed for a previous project. It's estimated about 300 gallons per day, which will be much more than the 5 employees in there will be generating. The water supply is via an on-site well. One of the peer review engineers' comments was to show it, I preferred to go ahead and just put a 100-foot well exclusion zone on the revised drawing that shows where a well can't be, because probably that's going to take some work by the well driller and the owner to nail down the exact location. Again, no freestanding exterior signage. The next drawing is the grading plan. It shows the design of there's a grassed underdrain soil filter on the site to the east, and there's a roof drip edge filter behind the building collecting runoff. Detention of stormwater is also provided in the grassed underdrain soil filter so that we meet the code for rate of runoff from the site, as well as treating a ½ inch of runoff from impervious areas. Because we couldn't get some of the driveway, it slopes towards the road into the soil filter. The previous town engineer has suggested a system with an underdrain pipe and some sand, kind of a small sand filter for the remaining runoff, and we've left that incorporated into the project. Okay. And the landscape plan, pretty similar to what we did last time. There's some trees down by the entrance. We're trying to preserve the buffer. There's no grading within 50 feet of the highway. And there's some planting beds along the walk leading up to the porch. We'll do the details fairly quickly because they're not that interesting. There's a standard erosion control sheet, details the soil filter, parking lot, things of that nature. Drawing C302 was updated with details for catch basins, and we added an emergency spillway to the soil filter per the engineering peer reviews comments. So that was updated. We'll get into the building this. So you have some elevations and floor plans in your package. Basically, that's the north elevation. There's one overhead door and one man door into the shop, and then a door under the porch that goes into the office section of the building. Some windows on the back to break it up. Another elevation. That's the elevation with the windows is the elevation facing Route 1 and the porch. That's just the first floor plan showing the office and garage space. Second floor plan showing the storage space, another office and a bathroom. And then we have a rendering in the package that shows the proposed colors and materials. The siding's a black LP smart side siding with dark architectural shingles on the roof. There's the porch on the northeast corner. We did request 2 waivers in the application. The first was for a traffic study, and I think everybody, staff and peer review engineers said that with 5 people, we're not worried about the traffic study. So, and I don't think the waiver was necessary. The second is a site work cost estimate, and that, again, is my understanding from Kyle, is a standard condition of approval. From the time we submitted, the changes that were made in response to staff review comments, oh, let me go one more. You do have a photometric plan in your package, too. There's only a light up over the overhead door, a light over the man door into the garage, and recessed lights on the porch. So we do meet the relevant standards of the ordinance. Since we submitted this, based on the comments received, we clarified the parking calculation, updated the impervious coverage, recalculated the building height to be 27.9 feet, provided financial and technical capacity, demonstrated, again, no impacts to wildlife habitat, historic resources, or floodplains, and the technical comments from the engineers were pretty minor, and those were all addressed in our recent response. So that's the end of my presentation.
Tom, if I may.
Yes.
One thing that I realized I left out of my notes, there is a course on the property that meets MDP standards for a stream, so it does have a mandatory 75-foot setback. The applicant is proposing to have some impact within that setback because of the stormwater features that they're proposing to install. So there will be a NRPA permit by rule from DEP that the applicant will be applying for, and that will be a condition of approval that they receive that, obviously, before they go through the permitting process with our codes office.
And you folks are probably all familiar with that, but that's basically a notification form sent to the DEP, and now you have to send it to everybody within 1,000 feet of the site. Just explaining what we're doing. We're going to be within 75 feet of the stream. We're going to be outside 25 feet of the stream. That's the standard for receiving a permit by rule, so we notify the DEP. If you don't hear from them in 15 days, I guess now they're issuing a notification to the towns and the applicants that you're approved. So there's some standards that you need to follow, and these plans follow all those standards. So.
Yes. I'm curious as to how this building will relate to the activities in the other building. Is this primarily for storage of HVAC equipment?
Bobby, you want to come up and introduce yourself and take that one?
Hi, guys. Bobby Miles, Vice President, Ball Miles & Son, and owner of Miles Realty 3. Thanks. As far as it's kind of divided in a couple different pieces, so we're divided in a couple different divisions. So our HVAC and our commercial department will have most of their stuff in this location. So yes to your answer, yes to your question, is we'll have HVAC, plus we'll have commercial stuff all stored there.
Today, at your existing facility, there's people coming in every day, parking their cars and leaving in your vans to go do the jobs. Will those same, there's what, 20 cars that are parked in your existing driveway and some on Route 1?
Yep.
Will some of those be going to that other facility to pick up the equipment?
Yes, 5 of those vehicles will be traveling over to there.
So the existing parking there, is that going to handle not only the office workers, but the number of workers coming to pick up their stuff for the job of the day, whatever it may be. In other words, will that impact the sort of backlog of parked cars in your existing site? Is that
It's
just
supposed to
designed
help that
relieve
impact that we're having on Route 1 and that kind of push towards that area, yes. So you won't be bombarded on Route 1 when you travel down and see all the vehicles. The idea is that some of the called foreman staff will be parking over there that run a couple of the departments. And then as far as the vehicles go, most of the guys will be taking the vehicles home.
Okay, so your new site provides enough parking for the cars of the workers who are taking off for the day and the office workers? Okay. Thank you.
We're being asked to determine if the above-ground utility is harmonious with the general area. Can you describe what it's going to look like? And
I know the goal the last couple times we did it was to try to preserve as much of that buffer out front without clearing it to put in.
preserve as much,
power.
I'm sorry.
Pardon me?
Preserve
wooded
as much
buffer.
Buffer,
Buffer.
yeah, the existing buffer.
Okay.
So if we go underground, we'll have to dig in, it'll just result in some more clearing in a little corridor that looks right down the,
Yeah. So this is just an overhead wire that's coming directly to the building? There's no new pole or anything
No.
else? Sounds harmonious to me.
Yeah, it's pretty much as straight from Route 1 to the building as you could get. Yeah, I mean, the standard in the ordinance is a little vague. But, I mean, in this specific case, you have a preference of the MDB to clearly maintain a natural wooded setback buffer if you can. Otherwise, you have to meet all sorts of design standards with the building that you don't necessarily have to meet if the building's kind of tucked away. But then, you have this other standard, they're a little bit at conflict, so sort of one of the few instances where it might make sense for the board to allow the overhead utility.
Harmony.
Okay.
I just think it's a great-looking building.
If and when people are ready to make a motion, I would just go off of the printed one that was at your seat when you arrived, because there was a small amendment to the conditions of approval where they no longer need to address the staff comments, and also Jess had added some language to the financial capacity finding since they had updated that information, so.
So the new one is addressing the yellow
Correct.
line?
Yeah, since they supply that information, that's been updated.
Okay.
Does anyone from the public, anyone from the public have any questions for the applicant or comment for the board? No one on Zoom? How about a motion, Jason?
I'll read the motion, yes. Move order that the Freeport Project Review Board approve the printed findings of fact and site plan review for Bob Miles 3 for the construction of a two-story building, Miles Realty 3, for the construction of a two-story building with an associated parking area to be used for construction services at 0 US Route 1, tax map 18, lot 59-1, to be built substantially as proposed in an application dated 7/28/26, finding that it meets the standards of the Freeport zoning ordinance with the following conditions of approval. 1, this approval incorporates by reference all supporting plans that amend the previously approved plans submitted by the applicant and the representatives at the Project Review Board meetings and hearings on the subject application to the extent that they are not in conflict with other stated conditions.
Speak up.
2, prior to construction, the applicant obtain any applicable permits from the Freeport Codes Enforcement Department and Public Works Department. 3, prior to any site work and the issuance of any building permit, the applicant complete the following. A, establish a performance guarantee in the amount to cover the cost of all site work associated with the project in an amount to be reviewed by the town's peer review engineer in a form acceptable to the town attorney. Along with the performance guarantee, a non-refundable administrative fee at the rate established by the Freeport Town Council will be paid. B, establish a site inspection escrow account in an amount to be determined for the inspection of site improvements by the town. C, enter into a stormwater maintenance agreement with the town of Freeport to be recorded in the Cumberland County Registry of Deeds, with yearly stormwater reporting to the town of Freeport being required. D, the developer have a pre-construction meeting with the town planner. E, provide a response to the peer review engineer comments from the memo dated August 11, 2026, to be reviewed by the town's peer review engineer. F, provide evidence to the town of Maine DEP's approval of the NRPA permit by rule for the impact within 75-foot stream setback. 4, the approval of a site plan shall become void if construction of site improvement is not initiated within 2 years of the date of such approval, unless such time limit is extended by the board that granted the original approval. 5, any appeals from a final decision of the project review board shall be taken only directly to Superior Court.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Lynn. Any discussion? All in favor of the motion as presented? Unanimous.
Thank you.
Thank you. The next agenda item is a proposed subdivision. This is a conceptual plan presentation for a 13-lot subdivision on 52 acres. And can you give us some background on it, Kyle?
Yeah, sure thing. So this is conceptual application. So again, like with some of our other recent subdivision applications, really just looking at the general proposed layout of the road and lots, taking a look at net residential acreage and open space calculations, and other kind of approximate information that the applicant's been ready to provide at this point. It's not pulled up on screen yet, but basically it's a 50-ish acre lot off of Wardtown Road. There's an existing private road called Tranquil Lane that sort of enters straight onto the lot and then kind of bends and heads towards some existing house lots. The applicant's proposing to kind of extend the portion that goes straight into the lot. You can see there's that kind of long strip off of Wardtown. So they would extend the private road, create some house lots. The net residential acreage and open space calculations have been worked out. The house lots would be pretty centrally located on the lot with the open space around it. So there's no concerns as far as density with the number of units that's proposed. The lots all meet the minimum requirements of the rural residential 1 district, so staff doesn't have any concerns there. There's a, at this point, proposed turnaround at the end of the road with an approximate location of a stormwater feature at the end. That's not really needs to be considered at the conceptual stage. I think as we highlighted, one staff comment, peer review comment, and we mentioned the staff report, and I guess should be fresh on the board's mind off of another recent project is in what the applicant's proposing. There's, the 700-foot existing stretch of Tranquil Lane that would not meet the private dead-end road standards in our subdivision ordinance now. I think the applicant had mentioned, it's a 15-foot width gravel road currently, whereas the requirement in the ordinance now is 18 feet travelway with 2-foot shoulders on either side. So, I included in the staff report and in the comments, there's some general language there that allows the board to technically approve an existing road that doesn't meet standard if they find that there's adequate capacity on that road to for traffic to get into the proposed subdivision. But at the same time, there's room for the board to require improvements and upgrades to those existing portions of road as well. So just flag that for board discussion and comment back to the applicant. Other than that, I'll let the applicant go through the rest of the site, and there's some environmental areas, vernal pools towards the southern end of the site that aren't being impacted, so there aren't too many concerns there outside of some small wetland impact areas from the road. But other than the road question at this point, I think staff didn't have too many concerns with the project as it's currently proposed.
Thank you, Kyle.
Yeah.
My name is Griffin Wood. I'm a civil engineer with Teradyne Consultants. I'm here on behalf of David and Tom Marsteller. David is here tonight. The project is a 13-lot subdivision containing 52 acres in the rural residential zone of Freeport. The yellow boundary is the approximate site currently. We've had wetlands delineated by Mark Sensi in June of 2026. There was one vernal pool found that's on the property, the southwest property line, generally in this purple and blue area here, which is generally outside of the area of the lot boundaries that are on the site. So we're not expecting an impact relative to that. The project site, sorry for jumping around there. The project site contains Tranquil Lane, which is an existing 15-foot wide gravel road in generally good condition. Apart from that, the rest of the site is wooded. It slopes from Tranquil Lane toward the rear of the site along, there's a town of Durham and Freeport property line to the back of it. Stormwater, or the site generally goes at a 5% grade toward the rear of the site toward Newell Brook, which is tributary toward the Androscoggin River. The 13-lot subdivision is an extension of the existing dead-end road, which is approximately 700 feet to the start of the proposed road extension. The section, it's existing at 15 feet, is generally in pretty good condition. So we're proposing to keep it as is to limit additional disturbance, impervious area created by additional road areas. We'll be getting test pit information on this road to verify it meets the town standards of gravels, thicknesses. The new 700-foot extension off of Tranquil Lane is approximately 700 feet also. It will be 9-foot wide paved lanes and 2-foot shoulders for a 22-foot width and terminating at a hammerhead toward the rear of the site. Stormwater will be captured and treated there to limit runoff. The residential density, it's in the RR1. It's approximately 1 unit per 2.5 acres of net residential area. A total of 19 lots could be created. 13 are proposed on this. The size of the lots ranges from 1.58 acres to 1.97. The proposed lots will be sold and developed by the future owners. The open space is in the perimeter of the site. A lot of it is kept in open space. It's 26.26 acres proposed right now, sort of functioning as a wooded buffer. The lots will be served by private wells and septic. Test pits will be provided to confirm septic viability later on. The extension of the road will have underground electricity to serve the proposed homes. As far as permitting, there is expected wetland impacts. You can see the hammerhead area of the road crosses a wetland area, so there will be impacts related to that. There are streams at the west and northern sections of the site. I don't know if you can see, around here in this area and here where these wetlands channelize into actual streams, but generally the lots are beyond there. So we're not expecting significant impacts as a result of this. But there will be NERPA and Army Corps permitting for the sections that are needed for the road to cross. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any questions from the board?
I have I guess a minor concern just on the surface of what I know of that road as to why you wouldn't want to upgrade the 700-foot stretch of road to serve, 13 lots is not a small subdivision. Can you explain, you mentioned the issue of not wanting to disturb, but is there any other development reason why you don't want to do this?
That's primarily the one. Less cleared area, less disturbance. Yeah, generally the road is in pretty good condition. It's used by, there's another house in the, over on this area that currently utilizes it, so construction would impact them a little bit, so.
Okay. I think I need to go take a closer look at that area, but that is a concern when you're, in 13 lots is a decent amount of additional traffic going down this dirt gravel road in that area.
I would flag it's also really not just the 13 lots, because you go in on that stretch of road and there's, you make the left on the existing portion and that accesses I don't know, 6 more house lots over there.
Yep, there's 5 once you, Tranquil Lane goes along this area, and then it's not shown on here, but there's 5 other units that are over there.
There's 6.
There's 6?
Yep.
Okay.
I agree with Drew. I think we should go look at it, and I have a hard time seeing that we support a 22-foot, 700-foot, 22-foot wide, 700-foot long to support 13 houses and ignore the existing 700 feet. But I agree, we ought to go look at it.
I have one other quick question too. Have you had any discussion with some of the neighbors on the street where this connects?
I have not personally. Have you? No.
By the way, I don't have any particular reason to think there's a concern there. I just did notice that right by the beginning of that 700 feet, there are a couple houses that are pretty close to this new road, where there's going to be, the traffic is one issue, but that's 13 lots isn't that big for that particular issue. I'm more concerned about things like lights from those cars as they're turning in, turning out, potentially impacting some of the structures that appear anyway on the map to be rather close to the property line. So it might be just something for you to think about moving forward. I think it's worth, and I think if we do have a site walk, we should make, and I think we do this anyway, but we should make sure that we give the neighbors there a chance to come to that site walk if they would like to.
Yeah, we noticed those just like any other meeting.
I had one question for Kyle. In several recent subdivision applications, the fire chief has asked for a firefighting cistern. Is that something that would apply to this project if it hasn't already come up?
Yeah, I can't remember if fire suppression was talked about in this application, but basically in the preliminary application, they would need to submit how they're going to address it. And then the fire chief would weigh in on that. I mean, it could be through sprinkling the houses or, the one, that's approved recently, they did the cistern, and then, there would need to be an easement for the town to access it, and it's, the applicant's responsibility to test and maintain that. So there's a couple different ways, but at this stage, it's not necessarily required that they have a solution just now.
We will be providing more information at preliminary.
Okay.
And Griffin, I had a question too on utilities. Did I read it right that you're asking for an exemption on the requirement for underground utilities?
Apologies if the application said that. For the 700-foot extension beyond where the road currently is for the paved portion, we're proposing underground.
Thank you.
I'll pile on here with respect to that 700 feet at 15. It's only 15 feet wide. Just for context, we just approved a project very simple with the same unique, unusual situation, but it was the same situation. In that case, the applicant didn't even own the land on that section of the access road that wasn't up to spec, but they did go to town spec. And I feel if you read section 11 in our subdivision ordinance, there are many reasons that I think that we should require you to go to full width. And not the least of which, in my mind, is if a fire truck or emergency vehicle is trying to get in there, there wouldn't be room to pass with only 15 feet.
And snow plowing and things like that.
Yeah. So,
Places for the stuff to go.
so this is just a concept meeting, but this is our chance to give you broad brush responses.
I appreciate that.
On the road. Also, this is a very long, very straight road. And when I look at the parcel you have to work with, you have a lot of open space around the whole perimeter. Would it be possible, and do you think preferable, to maybe put a little bit of a right-hand turn in that road at lot 13 when you get back to the wide part of the property? I don't think there's any sacrifice in your utilization of the property.
We can take a look at that for the next submission. This was sort of the more cost-effective path forward that provided less impervious area. Doing that, we found that we'd have sort of a larger amount, but it is possible.
How would this be more expensive?
The lots that we drew up during concept when we're looking at various ideas created a more linear feet of roadway to create that. But we can look at adjusting that.
Just, I mean, the subtle radius is just a few feet. I'd like you to look at that. If you could, I just encourage you to. We don't have the authority to require that.
We'll take a look at it.
And I think a site walk would be appropriate. The board will vote as a group on that, but the way we normally do that is wait until you're ready to come in. We don't have to, but we usually wait till you're ready to come in for preliminary approval, and then we do it at 5 o'clock the same day.
Sounds good.
And when there's a path.
Yeah, we need to have a center road, a center line.
Staked?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yep.
And lot corners as well. Does the board agree that we want to do a sidewalk?
Yes. Could I just say something about the road?
You come up to the lectern and introduce yourself, please.
Yeah, Dave Marsteller, the owner of the property, one of them. Yeah, as far as the 700 feet of tranquil lane that we'll be using, as Griffin mentioned, we're having SW Cole, who's geotechnical engineers, I guess, do a test boring, which will tell us, it's just a core sample, what the compaction is, what the road is made of. That road has been there a long time, and who knows, what it consists of. Even though it's held up fairly well, probably except in the spring, there's a little bit of a problem. And also what's down under the gravel. So we'll get, I don't know how many feet to go down, but we'll have that information. And that will inform us what we need to do. Tom, my brother, and I always thought that, this is not, 15 feet, whatever it is not adequate for all these dwellings and the traffic. So we had expected to do, at least widen the road to 22 feet or whatever. And then if we have to rebuild to some degree, and probably raise it up a little, the road, we expected to do that. And then paving, we'll see. I mean, it'd be great if it were paved, but I think that's a future decision. So, it's not like we want to leave the road as is. We expect to do something, and it could be a fair amount. And I think a curve in the road, is that what the chairman mentioned? When you go in, to curve to the right?
We're looking for, just put a little bit of variety in there.
Yeah, it does look pretty boring right now.
Love it.
We did have a plan, one of the conceptual plans that we originally came up with that curve. And it entailed about 200, at least 200 extra feet.
Can you describe, just so I understand what you were talking about, how does 200 feet get added if you just put a little radius at lot 30?
It was maybe a more significant radius than what you were anticipating. It went further into the site, and to achieve the minimum frontages in reasonable sized lots, what we came up with added a couple hundred extra feet. We can explore possibilities. There are a lesser version of that that's sort of in the middle.
Thanks.
And to site that many houses, you'd need some extra frontage because you couldn't use everything on the curve. So, yeah, with the cost of roads and paving, but aesthetically, yeah, that would undoubtedly be preferable. So we'll take another look at that and I'm still going to get some road pricing. So, I don't know, any other questions of me?
We may have more after the site walk.
I'm sorry?
I'm sure, we may have more after the site walk, certainly.
Right, I'm sure
We don't
you
have
will.
any details at this point. With respect to the road, I'm sure you saw the comments from our reviewing engineer that suggested that for the existing road, that it be widened, and that also, that you do the type of corings you're talking about to determine what's there now, because it's got to be the spec.
Yeah, just for, because it came up just now, the gravel and paving, there is a provision just on its own in the subdivision ordinance that says, I don't know, it's private roads or private dead-end roads in the rural district, up to 700 feet can be left gravel. So, I mean, technically, there's a way forward there where the board, requires some upgrade to the depth of gravel below and requires it being widened to 22 feet, but that existing 700 feet of Tranquil Lane is left gravel, and then the new portion extension would have to be paved. I think technically that would be allowable under the ordinance, but again, that's up for
Well, you'll
board
end up with a lot
consideration.
of snowplow gravel heading towards your newly paved road. Because now there's traffic on it all the time, right?
And damage at the transition point.
So we feel like we wanted to have a site walk?
Yes.
Okay, great. Great. Any other questions for the applicant?
What's the ballpark timing on this then, if they're
When do you think you'll be coming back in for preliminary?
before winter?
Potentially, yeah.
Winter's any day.
It depends on your queue and when we can get this done. Optimistically, yeah, but we'll have to look into this a little more thoroughly.
So submission deadline for September is next Wednesday. So I assume it's
that would
not
be a
gonna
no.
Yeah, not going to be September. But then there's an extra week in September, so the deadline for the October meeting, I think, would be September 30th, so, yeah.
Okay, but this year is my point. We would walk it.
Sounds like it.
Sounds like it, yep.
Yeah, we'll try for that.
Good. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Final agenda item is RSU number 5, to add a 4th tennis court and reconfigure all 4 of them. Cal, can you give us a
It's
review?
going to be Jess again.
Oh, Jess.
Me again. All right. You all good with your laptop? Yeah, no worries. All right, so our last applicant of the evening is Regional School Unit 5. They've come for a site plan amendment to replace the existing tennis facility on the high school campus with a larger, updated facility, in approximately the same location, along with associated fencing and walkways. To accommodate the increased size of the new facility, which is going to extend into the adjacent grass field, the nearby softball scoreboard will be relocated closer to the ball field and a 30-foot high protective netting will be installed between the ball field and the facility. Not as many notes on this. It is smaller than the previous project, but a stormwater report was submitted as part of the application packet. The applicant anticipates peak post-development stormwater runoff rates will be less than peak pre-development runoff rates. There is an existing SLOTA permit for the site that allows the applicant to utilize an educational institution exemption for new construction or modifications to their campus, as long as the new impervious area generated does not surpass 40,000 square feet in a calendar year or 80,000 square feet in total. The applicant anticipates the creation of approximately 10,000 square feet of new impervious space as part of this project. The town's peer review engineer provided comments regarding the stormwater management plans in a memo dated August 11th, and the applicant has submitted a response that is currently being reviewed. If further review results in any changes to the proposed stormwater plan that are beyond the scope of what can be approved at the staff level, the applicant will return to Project Review Board for additional approval. The applicant anticipates that the existing landscape around the project area will be largely maintained as part of this project, only minimally impacted by the proposed grading for the new courts and the stormwater features. There are 5 shrubs and trees along the east side of the project area that will be removed. For those of you familiar with the facility, I believe that's where the bleachers are currently situated, at one end of the facility. However, 4 other trees along that southeast edge between the facility and the parking area will be retained and shielded during construction to ensure their protection. There's no additional landscaping being proposed that doesn't currently exist, other than obviously revegetating areas disturbed by the project during construction. The current tennis facility is unlit. The applicant is not proposing the installation of any exterior lighting. There's also no water or sewer service to the project area currently, and none is proposed. The only utility work proposed is there will be a new electrical conduit, underground conduit, that will extend from where the softball scoreboard currently sits to the proposed new location of the board closer to the ball field. There's no new traffic impacts anticipated or vehicle access changes for the installation of this project, as the new courts are intended to be used as the current courts are being used by the high school in that same capacity. There's no new parking as a result that's being provided in association with the project, as the applicant is only proposing the creation of 1 additional tennis court, and there are existing adjacent parking areas. Were you able to get it up and running? Try unplugging it and plugging it back in.
Just one process thing for the board, since this is a little different. Typically, we have a concept meeting and then the full submission. The ordinance does allow for site plan amendments for relatively small projects to just jump into the final meeting. So staff advised the applicant just to submit the full application, since the project seemed fairly small. And if for whatever reason the board, wasn't ready to make a decision and felt there was more information needed, you could always table it and come back, but giving the opportunity to do it in one night rather than requiring 2 meetings for this seemed reasonable.
Any questions for Jess? Jess, residential abutters.
Yeah, so obviously there is a residential neighborhood that is adjacent to the school, and then obviously Holbrook is just down below the high school complex. Abutters were notified, given that it's the same use that currently exists and it's only a minor increase to the overall size of the facility. The applicants did not seem overly concerned about additional impacts on residential neighborhoods from things like parking and additional traffic, since the facility is used by the school and not as a public access facility.
Thank you. Welcome.
Thank you. My name is Aaron Hunter. I'm a professional engineer with Sebago Technics, here tonight on behalf of Regional School Unit 5 for the proposed tennis court project. So I'll just Jess covered pretty much everything that I wanted to talk about, but I'll quickly flip through the plans to give you guys all the visuals and quickly touch on a few things. As Jess had noted, and Kyle had noted, that we met with staff in July for a pre-application meeting to review the proposal, and we wanted to try to expedite the process. So we asked to be, if it was possible, to go through one meeting for this project to allow the school to be able to put the project out to bid, to allow potential construction to start this fall, and to allow things to get prepped over the winter in order to be able to finish it in the springtime for use. So right here, I just have a quick aerial showing the school campus here. You have the high school here, the track to the north, and then to the south, you have some parking area with the softball fields, and then what remains of the existing field area, and then the tennis court area. And you have a blow up here showing that area. Have wooded area to the west, additional parking over to the east. Right now, there's currently the 3 tennis courts orientated perpendicular to the school. So I will go to the site plan. So here's the site plan. So as you can see, we're removing the 3 existing tennis courts that were in the area of the courts that are proposed on the north here. We're going to be expanding the tennis courts to the south, adding 1 additional court, going to be providing 10-foot tall fencing around the perimeter of the court area with some access gates, and then a walkway in between the 2 courts with gates to the different areas. And then also, as a part of the project, we'll be adding 2 pedestrian walkways from the adjacent parking areas. I think today there's probably, if I had to guess, just a beaten down path where people have made their way to the tennis courts. We'll also be relocating the existing scoreboard that's currently in the corner, the southwest corner of the field area, and that's for the, I believe, for the softball field. So that'll be relocated closer to the softball field. There'll be some underground electric to run to that to relocate that. Also be proposing a 30-foot tall netting system to provide some protection from the adjacent softball fields to the new tennis court area. As Jess had mentioned, there's no lighting today and no lighting proposed. There's no water or sewer that serves the courts today, and nothing is proposed. Really don't anticipate much of an additional traffic as a result of these. I think, if I had to guess, probably the main thing that this is going to allow more matches to go on at once, to expedite practice times and different things like that, to just allow for better use and more people to use it at the same time rather than spaced out over a longer time. That's just a more clear version of it, showing it overlaid on top of the existing site. You can see where the proposed tennis courts fall in relation to the existing. We'll be impacting these trees right along here for grading purposes, just due to the elevation extending to the south. That's higher over here, and it's kind of pitching back towards this area, so needing to raise up the courts, and they're all interconnected, so to allow for the grading of that and to provide a flat area adjacent to here for people to spectate and access, need to impact those trees. We'll be protecting the trees along the eastern boundary in the adjacent parking lot. And then in terms of the grading, I kind of touched on it right now. This existing field area drains from south to north to an existing swale that has a field inlet within it with a underground pipe that drains to the east towards the softball fields. So we'll be extending the development over that. We'll be really maintaining the existing tree line to the west, and then maintaining generally the existing drainage patterns that go from west to east. We'll be grading the tennis courts to go to the east into 2 retention basins that will allow for retention of the half-inch of runoff that's required by the town, and then it will also it will meet the peak rates of the existing drainage that's out there today, just through the additional storage that's provided in these, and that will tie into the existing under drain pipe that is there today that we're going to be relocating the swale that's currently here and picking up the drainage from the south into a new swale that will come to these drainage areas. That's really the extent of the project. We did receive some peer review comments from the peer review engineer that we've resubmitted and are waiting response. I think anything that would be coming back from that, we would be able to, confident that the engineer that we're working with, CHA, who specializes in these sports facilities, will be able to work with them to address that, and hoping for final approval tonight, and happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Aaron. Any questions for Jess or Aaron? I'll ask one. You may have said this, and I know it's in the plans, but how much are you raising the elevation of the existing tennis area?
I believe it's about this is elevation 49 here, and this is it's about a foot probably, raising it about a foot. And then over on this side, we're actually cutting it down a couple of feet on this side, on the southern side.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thanks. We'll have a chance to discuss this further. Is it okay if I ask if the public has any comments? I see there are people here. Anyone from the public care to ask a question of the applicant or share a comment with the board? And if so, please come to the lectern and introduce yourself. Misread the audience.
They're on the applicant side.
Okay.
They're all tennis players.
Okay. That's all right. Are there any questions?
I just wanted to understand the percentage of slope across the court. It must be a shallow slope, right?
Yeah, so it's the change across the court from this side, if you can see my cursor here, is you're going from 149.9 to 149. So it's a 0.83% slope, so it's very, very shallow.
Okay. And are there standards around that for court construction that are applicable? I just don't know.
Yeah, I'm certainly not an expert on the court construction component. In particular, our company handled we handled the permitting and then also the survey component, and CHA is the company who handled the design of the courts themselves. But yeah, there are certain standards, and typically you want a court to be very flat, but enough pitch to be able to drain. And for a paved surface, whether it be a concrete or the asphalt surface, just right at 1% or right under 1% is good enough to be able to drain across that.
If you change the pitch and strategically place your opponents on the court, it might actually be better. I actually, this is not a question. I actually very much like this project.
Yeah.
I think it's a nice addition to the school, and I have no problem personally moving forward tonight.
Are you ready for a motion? I have one question about in the conditions of approval, Kyle. Condition 3E says that this is conditioned upon you providing a response to the peer reviewer.
Yeah.
Let's make sure it's a positive response, that it's to the satisfaction of the peer reviewer.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, and it should be, so I formed the staff report and the conditions are adjusted, either one of us, oftentimes before the comments come in, but then we don't update the findings because even though the comments have come in, they haven't been reviewed by the peer review yet, so it's still kind of irrelevant.
And that's the
condition to
case here,
include.
right?
Yeah, correct. But yeah, you can amend the language, tweak it, however.
Anyone care to make a motion? I'll make a motion, I guess, since I'm the one monkeying with it. Be it ordered that the Freeport Project Review Board approve the printed findings of facts and site plan amendment for Regional School District Number 5 for a new outdoor tennis facility considered accessory to the public school on the Freeport High School campus at 21 Moore Street, tax map 11, lot 24, to be built substantially as proposed in an application dated 7/29/2026, finding that it meets the standards of the Freeport zoning ordinance with the following conditions of approval. This approval incorporates by reference all supporting plans that amend the previously approved plans submitted by the applicant and their representatives to the Project Review Board meetings and hearings on the subject application to the extent that they're not in conflict with other stated conditions. 2, prior to construction, applicant obtained any applicable permits from the Freeport Code Enforcement Department. 3, prior to any site work or issuance of any building permits, the applicant complete the following. A, establish a performance guarantee in the amount to cover the cost of all site work associated with the project in an amount to be reviewed by the town's peer review engineer in a form acceptable to the town attorney, along with a performance guarantee, a non-refundable administrative fee at the rate established by the Freeport Town Council be paid. B, establish a site inspection escrow account in the amount to be determined by the inspection of the site improvements by the town. C, enter into stormwater maintenance agreement with the town of Freeport to be recorded in the Cumberland County Registry of Deeds, with yearly stormwater reporting to the town of Freeport being required. D, developer have a pre-construction meeting with the town planner. E, this is the one I'm proposing we amend, provide a response to the peer review engineer's satisfaction to the comments regarding stormwater management from a memo dated August 11, 2026 to be reviewed by the town's peer review engineer. And finally, 4, the approval of site plan shall become void if construction of site improvements is not initiated within 2 years of the date of such approval unless such time is extended by the board would granted the approval. Is there a second? Any discussion?
No.
All in favor? Unanimous, Sharon. Thank you. Good luck.
Thank you.
Motion to adjourn.
Yeah. Nothing else? Anything else? Or
Yes.
Yes. Yeah.
Can we wait a sec?
What?
Can we wait 1 second?
Yeah.
until Sebago's going?
Yeah, sure.
Procedure question.
You're still going to be on TV.
Okay, well, we all received the materials with the basic information, and then HS, it's not specifically Sebago, does it all the way down to quite a lot of detail, and then we get it again from the man sitting at the laptop. And so my question is, basically, I'm 3 times, twice in public.
And you read it.
I love the guy, and I read it. I like the guy with the, all the pictures and stuff to be available to add detail to what's been presented by the speaker at the lectern.
Yeah.
But to basically go through, iterate the same stuff a second time on the floor.
That's a good point.
That's
Yeah.
all.
For the benefit, just,
Not personal, just saying,
So
is
there's
there a way?
positives and negatives, but I always like giving our staff report first because
So that's
I want
4
to
times.
tie it to, well, I just mean our verbal here
Yeah.
because we should be able to call out any standards to the board or any, I don't think it happened
I'm not
tonight,
talking
but
about the staff report. I'm
yeah,
just
I don't
talking
want a
about-
developer at the meeting to be the first voice that the public and the
Absolutely.
board hears and gloss over standards that might be key factors.
Absolutely. I'm just talking
so,
about the
yeah, if we-
presentation basically
Yeah.
twice, not verbatim, but several speakers have stood up and said, well, he's already said what I was going to say. So the question is,
yeah, that makes sense. I mean, I
can make a
think,
comment.
I think your
Time is
concern
money.
is still addressed.
Yeah.
If you and Jess, when you're preparing an applicant, say, we're going to do our thing, you just fill in the blanks
Yep.
that we left.
or have one presenter from the the firm go through it all, but then to have everybody plug in and do it again, it seems redundant, unless we all have specific questions that require more in-depth answers, in which event the fellow with the keyboard could provide us with that without going through the same thing over again.
Yeah, we can make the comment in the pre-application meetings. I think every town does it differently, so in some towns where they're not staffed at all, applicants will have to make the whole presentation to the board, and so they prepare everything, so then, people
I
get
think
here
you're
and they
laying the
probably-
groundwork is really important for us to look
Yeah,
at this
we can mention it to people.
context.
And your presentations are very helpful too, Jess.
Yeah.
Okay.
Anything else?
Move to
Any
close
other
the meeting.
motions?
Close the meeting?
Okay, motion to adjourn? Second, all in favor? Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, everybody.